Good morning, everybody. Welcome to Sales Chatter. This is the Logistics Podcast with the mission of getting 10,000 reps to hit a million GP. I'm your co-host, Ryan Mohammed. With me is my main man, President and CEO of RGTX Logistics Solutions, Jeff Dickinson. Good morning, brother. How you doing this morning?
Good morning, my friend. Doing well. I can't believe it's Tuesday already. I mean, here was the weekend, a couple days ago. It's just crazy. And boy, I mean, we've been having a good episode. Yesterday was pretty good. So let's get in today's. Let's go. Let's do it.
To the HPLS podcast. Live, relevant, and high performance information, conversations, and education weekly.
There we are. Good morning, Jenny. So happy to see you here this morning. Had a conversation with her. She's amazing. I hope she's doing well and ready to crush the week. So, like we said, Jeff, like yesterday, we brought tons of value to people who were watching yesterday, and just that kind of momentum, right? So, just before we kind of get started, man, I know I like to always kind of get thoughts and things like that. Any kind of feedback after the fact, after we record that episode, and kind of reflecting, because I know in the showers where I reflect the most, I'm like, oh God, I should have said that. I should have said this. I should have done that. But any reflection, brother?
Yeah, what's great about the synergy between us two is that we can agree to disagree. There are several things that we disagreed on, and there was a lot of things that we did. That's what the show is all about, giving little perspective. So it's subjective, but it kind of helps people, we try to help people to provoke thought, to think of different alternatives and options that everybody has in life. And whatever they choose, here's what the outcome is going to be based upon what happened to you, what happened to me, and what's the best path to take. So, yeah, I mean, I don't think that we missed anything, really. I mean, I think we could have spent hours on end talking about negotiations and everything in between that. But I think we got to the main subject line and what we were trying to accomplish. How about you? What did you think?
Yeah, I thought it was amazing, and for me, it's pretty well. First and foremost, when you said synergies, I'm like, yeah, we're even matching. We got the red Tuesdays going on, but I love our synergy. And for me, when I'm looking looking at our episode, and then I don't really consume news a lot, but you'll always see like those like title news on LinkedIn, like on the right hand side, top right hand side, and you just see, I don't know, Jeff, like layoffs after layoffs after layoffs. I even saw like Spotify, sorry, the music player, like there are all these tech companies, and the value that we're kind of bringing into everybody else here is what I've kind of seen, especially in the brokerage community, logistics community, is everyone's kind of betting on themselves, like being their own boss, eat what you kill, and kind of decide like, hey, I don't want to be a salary anymore. I want to kind of depend on myself and make that happen. So I think the tools are amazing. Like I said, we're out here to give any kind of feedback that we can. And that gets into today. So yesterday, we talked about quoting and negotiating and all that fun stuff. Well, Jeff, I'm going to put out a scenario to you. Okay. You won that shipment. Customer is like, let's get it done. So before you, first and foremost, start jumping for joy. You've won, but nothing's done until you got money in the bank. But with that being said, I want to talk about credit applications first, and then we'll get into SOPs later on the show. As soon as you get that go ahead that, hey, that shipment is good to go, what are you doing, Jeff?
I am definitely trying to find out whether they're credit worthy or not. I mean, we have those conversations up front. You really want to get them in your corral and say, yeah, I got another customer, but there's so many other different things that have to be acted upon. One of them is the credit app. You have to make sure that, you do it. And make sure that they have enough credit to cover at least that one shipment. 10 grand to start off a customer is more than enough unless you're moving something that's flatbed, specialized or something like that, where, there's going to be a lot of money involved. But how many times does that happen, right? So, your first load, you definitely want to make sure that you've dotted all the T's. Dotted the I's and crossed the T's. Find out as much as you possibly can about that shipper's operation. And what I mean by that is, hours of operation, the do's and don'ts. I'm sure everybody out there has their own list, or hopefully they're going to build one, because that's going to help you along the way when you talk to the carriers and want them, to inform them about this shipment, because you surely don't want them to get red flag coming out of the gate. So what I usually do, depending upon the kind of conversations that I have with my customers, if I feel really good about it, I'll get that credit app already filled out way ahead before I even move that shipment, because I have that good feeling, that warm and fuzzy feeling. And it just kind of streamlines the process and gets you started rather quickly. So when you do get that, there's no delay on that first shipment. You've got the credit, you've created that shipper in your TMS. They're all ready to go. You have your contacts, your phone numbers, everything that you need, and you're off and running. And here we go, my first shipment. Hopefully, I knock it out of the park on that.
I won't let you off that easy. It's not done yet. But yeah, for me, what I do first, I love that you said the credit app, you do it kind of like beforehand. And for me, I kind of if I was in a situation, hey, I was kind of like brand new and kind of get into this, I always kind of went from, hey, get the quote, get the customer, and then do the credit app. But I love what you say, because if I have a good feeling, and that's what relationships are based off of, right? Feeling and kind of getting those facts as well. But if I was talking to a customer and I feel like it's getting that right way, and I'm like, hey, can we just get this out of the way and do this credit app? If they say no, then it's like, okay, I got to take a couple steps back and figure out why it's that no. If they say yes, you're like, okay, well, nobody just does a credit app just to do credit apps for fun. Because I don't know about you, Jeff, I feel like the bigger company you go, there's a longer chain of command when it comes to credit apps. It's like, hey, let me get this to my CFO. Let me get this to my account. Let me get this. Like, a whole bunch of people have to sign off on this, and you kind of go through those reports and things like that. And for me, for credit apps, I think we spoke about this off air, but I've never had a customer declined to do freight with. The worst case scenario, let's say if their credit wasn't so good or anything like that, was that we'd always have them we'd bring the option for them to prepay maybe the first 5 to 10 shipments. Right. So we were basically say, hey, we're going to do this. Do you agree with it? Give us a credit card and we'll do that. And then once you guys do that, we'll establish a credit line for you. And I believe it's like you kind of look at the mindset of like a secured credit card for people who are kind of building the credits, new kids or anything like that from there. But I truly believe, like, you get that credit app done. Jeff, let's say you've got to wait a couple days for that credit app because, like we said, it's not the logistics manager filling that information out. What are you doing in between? What are you doing in between those days to make sure everything is kind of running?
I'm definitely I'm definitely talking to the shipper, because let's put it this way. The scenario is that he needs to get out tomorrow. You don't have a couple of days to to wait for that credit app. 2 red flags that I look at. Why are they always doing a wire transfer if they choose to do so? Why do they want to do a credit card? So, if they're doing that, tells me that, these are kind of what, one-offs kind of deals. I'm not that transactional guy, that as well. So I'm going to ask questions. Sometimes businesses like to protect themselves, because just imagine if they got 100 brokers calling them up and everybody wants to have a credit app filled out just like that. It's not good for their credit score. So they kind of protect that area. And when they do give you the green light to go, that's a great sign. That is a good sign that, there's a high probability I'm going to get this load, because they, the bigger the elephant, it's kind of hard to slay them. But when you do, you're in a very good position. But there's so many other different steps that you have to take.
100%. And we'll get into the SOP. And the one thing, just a little bit of feedback from myself for customers. I'm gonna tell some people here what I kind of do. I used to do. I don't really do it anymore. But I used to watch Shark Tank. I still watch Shark Tank, but I used to watch Shark Tank for business purposes. And in Canada, we have Dragon's Den. Dragon's Den was the original one, and then they kind of branched off into the US and did Shark Tank. But I used to do a lot of my prospecting on Dragon's Den and Shark Tank. So I'd see a company come out, hey, we've been in business for about a year. We do this, and then the next day I would literally find out their email and send them an email. Hey, saw you guys on Shark Tank last night, or saw you guys on Dragon's Den. Would love to learn about your logistics solutions. And for those companies, like, I would say I probably got about 10 of them set up over the 6 years that I work with. Nice. And they were like the same way, like, they're brand new companies. So they're not used to logistics. They're not used to doing credit apps and things like that. Right. So it's kind of guiding them in that. And that's where I've had issues from there, but it's been great from there. So I think when you're doing that credit app, it kind of gets that opportunity to build. So I do want to kind of transition a little bit into SOPs, because, Jeff, I'll tell you this. I never did SOPs in full transparency up until maybe a year and a half ago. I didn't know what an SOP was. I was never trained it. It was never a conversation to have. If it was like, hey, we need to figure out the rate on file, basically you're basically Googling or going to searching your inbox for like emails from months ago to kind of put all those together. But we started implementing, well, the company I work with, they implemented SOPs, and oh my God, like it is such a cheat code. It's such a thing. And I know that you have a very extensive, and we're not going to go through your extensive SOPs, but let us know what are some key things and how did you come up with your SOP?
Uh, to answer that last question, trial and error. The problems that existed, you know, again, I work from the inside out. So when I went into a new facility, you know, some go in there to administer something that's already been created. I go in there and I explode it. I just totally detonate it. You know, it's no good. It's not mine. I want it mine. So how are we going to do this? How am I going to find out the problem? So we'll leave that there. Same thing happens on the outside in. So you want to expose the problems at the shipper. You want to get some type of facility profile in place that can be shared, that's agreed upon. You know, because let's face it, shippers always tear the hell out of carriers all the time. You know, it's never their fault. It's always the carrier's fault. So when you have something that's written and you have a work instruction document in place, or a facility profile, as I would call it, mine is very extensive. There's probably 50, 60 line items. You name it. Some things you haven't thought of, I did. It's on there. I give it to the shipper, and I have them fill it out from A to Z. That information is very important in the collaboration phase of your relationship, because that's what you're trying to build. So you're taking that information, you are communicating back and forth with that shipper, making sure that everything that was stated is in fact what it is. And you're going to take that information, you're going to share that with the carrier for full transparency. So there's no, you know, hidden, oh my gods, I didn't know this thing and all this. It's all up front. Now, this gives you the ability, actually the carrier ability, to ask questions that you can add to that facility profile that may not have been on it, or you may not have thought of it. So now you're getting this all put together before that first shipment rolls. It's very, very important, because that means that you're in it for the long run. You're not just trying to go in there, pull that shipment, and see you later, or vice versa. If they take the time to fill out something that extensive, they're in it with you. They want to build a long-term business partnership. That's what you want. That's what I do when I do dedicated, because that's all I like, is dedicated. So you have to dig into it a little bit more, Ryan, than just the simple thing of, okay, carrier A be in there tomorrow. Does 9 o'clock work for you? You know, you don't want to ask that question. 9 o'clock does work, because you know that ahead of time. You know
that ahead of time. And get into a little bit of specifics of like SOP. Like for me, I always kind of think like the what if scenarios, right? Like you always kind of say that, and I took that from you. And I think about, hey, what if my guy, if it's a cross-border shipment, what if they're stuck at the border? Who's the customs broker, first of all? Who do I reach out for after hours? Do you want notifications? Do you want notifications when shipment has been picked up and delivered? When do you want to hear from me, essentially? Exactly. So it's like you kind of want to set up like a blueprint. And I think it's one of the best things that anybody could set up, because it kind of takes away that, let's say something happens to you and you're kind of like hoarding all that information. Like if something was like to ever happen to you, it's like, okay, somebody could literally read that SOP and then they could be like, okay, cool, we can pick it up from here and kind of go from there. And I believe that, especially with the SOPs, and you're bringing that collaboration with your team.
Just a few little things. I don't know if you can see this, but here's this checklist, and you can see how big that is. Almost fills up 11 by 14. And and this is very important. I cannot put so much emphasis on it as I do, because things can go wrong. So you want to fend off those problems before you even start rolling that first one. Build.
And I'll ask you this, Jeff. There's been times where I've asked questions on SOPs that like the logistics manager didn't know. They didn't know themselves.
That's
and
great.
Yeah, exactly. That's that thought provoking, right? And you're having those conversations with them. SOPs, Jeff. I really want to elaborate a little bit more on what exactly is in there, what's outside of like famous like ship tos and like billing. Do you put billing information in SOPs, or you're just keeping it
No,
like standard?
that's no, because they know that they already know where to do that. That has nothing to do with freight payment services or anything like that. You're just talking about there could be anything from uh, facility contacts, what kind of trailer size they use, what's their operation, does the driver have access to the dock? Do you have bathrooms? Can you get coffee? I mean, there's all different kinds of stuff because you're building that. You want to tell that carrier that, you know what, here's the most important things that I know are relatable to you because your driver's on the road a long time. This is what that facility can offer you, you know. But then you also want to talk about claims and the process and all this other kind of stuff because, hey, guess what? That may come up too. So you try to iron all these things up. And that's why, I like working from the inside out. I want to know what that shipper is doing and looking at that freight before it's even loaded. I would love to do that. And I have done that. And that's what enabled me to create these work instructions. And I'll be frank, I've even created work instructions and process improvement plan a long time ago for the number one LTL carrier out there, Old Dominion Freight. And I have the documents over there, and I do have a rep that can definitely attest to that. But there was a big problem on that, and we figured it out. Just like I'm saying, you'd have to see that freight, what's happening with it, where it's going, problematic things, and you have to dive into it.
Yeah, as Jeff's internet, he definitely doesn't have an SOP for his internet. But with that being said, we're kind of always kind of looking at different things when you're looking at doing your SOP. So for me, one of the big things is having, as Jeff here, is having
That's
leaving nothing up to chance.
I was getting into it.
So
And
you always
you have to do, I apologize, folks. But yeah, it's a passion of mine. And it's part of the differentiator and the value that I bring to the table. And you can make that value as well. But just don't think about that shipment. Think about everything else that has to do with that customer. Write down those things and ask those questions. The door is open for you to do so. So jump through it, man. Go head first into that fire and start firing off. You might get some, so not so good feedback, but you just be transparent. I'm trying to build a relationship with you. Hopefully you want to do the same thing with me. So it's important, people. It really is.
And when you come from a place of like, hey, I'm an ongoing student, I just want to learn about your operations. And I think if you like, what segue for me that's worked for like kind of like the difficult questions that they don't want to give is saying, hey, your HR, they have like your like human resources, they have an SOP for like onboarding like your employees. They have SOPs for onboard. Like everybody has an SOP, right? So the more detailed, the better, right? It's not like I'm just having this here so I can publish this, right? You're having this here so you can be an asset, you can be a wing, basically put a feather in your cap. I feel like I'm stealing all your phrases, Jeff, because we talk so much. I never used to use these phrases in my life.
That makes me warm and fuzzy because I'm getting through, because I know it really is. I mean, it's so important, collaboration. I laugh. I'm not making fun of these people. I'm really happy that they're talking more about collaboration. Done it for well over 35 years. And I'm telling you, it is the best thing that you can do. It's the number one thing that you need to build coming out of the gate. And if you don't have that congruency and you don't have that buy-in, walk. Learn to say no and walk away. Revenue is not the most important thing that you have to worry about. Relations are. If you have a good relationship, you'll have excellent revenue coming in. Don't put the cart before the horse. I'm telling you right now.
Yeah, and that's what we've always kind of said, the money will, you do the work and the money will come. And I think I saw a post yesterday and I kind of like commented on it, was saying like, one of the big things a freight broker or a anybody can have is having that education before compensation. The
Yes.
compensation will come. And coming back to SOPs, I think you make that ironclad. I'll put you on the spot here, Jeff, because that's what we like to do. What are
Love it.
three things that are needed for an ironclad SOP, and how often should you review your SOP?
Well, that's a broad question, but I can say it this way. A work instruction is built around a problem. So once you identify that problem and you have a solution and you are talking to the other person, because remember, this is not a one-sided event when you build a work instruction, because you're investigating, you're exploring, you're gaining knowledge, and you're taking that and you're writing that down as bullet points, and you're going over with whomever you have that problem with. And then what you want to do is you want to make that document. You want to put a number to it, and then you want to put a review date. Depending upon the severity of the problem, you may want to revisit it after you figure out a solution and agree to something that you want to implement. You may want to do that within a 2-week period of time, sometimes a month, or maybe 3 months. But you never want to destroy the original document. What you want to do after the discussions is that you want to make an addendum to the original work instruction. So if you call it 1, you do the addendum as 1A. Okay, that means that you're showing progress. You're showing improvement in the relationship that you're building. Here's the problem that we had. This is what we implemented. This is when we implemented it and the date. Let's see if this works, because again, a problem is a loss of money usually. So you want to close off that pipe and stop that bleed. So the thing is like I said, it's really based upon the severity of the problem and what you identified. It's those hidden bank things. You always hear me call about the hidden bank. You can identify it if you look deep enough. Once it is, talk, create the work instruction, do the addendums, and this way that solidifies, folks, that solidifies a long-term business relationships, because it shows that you improved something over a period of time and that it's not static, dynamic. You're showing that improvement, and that solidifies that relationship between the two of you. Actually, it could be 3, because it could be the shipper, yourself, and the carrier. So whatever it may, yeah.
Whatever it kind of takes. And I think for me, when I kind of build out SOPs, when I kind of bring on a new client or even reviewing, I always kind of start with the end in mind. Okay, what's my end goal? What's the reason that I'm doing this for? Is it to work out kinks, or is it to be improvement offers, right? Because I always hate, Jeff, when I see like a product in the store and says new and improved. And I'm like, there's no way that can be possible, right? Because it's not new and improved. It's either new or it's improved, right? It's not an improvement offer from there. But I think when it comes to, for me, I always review my SOPs with my customers every quarter, to kind of review. I do a monthly review of like the shipments that we've run in, just bringing it back to like what kind of comes on there. But roles change, people change, so it's not always gonna happen, right? I feel like a SOP for me is just to kind of understand the roles and responsibilities of everybody on that wheel and how we're gonna make that wheel turn, right?
And
So
that's very important. I have to interrupt you here,
yeah,
because
of course.
you just said about positions changing and everything. I mean, that's what's so critical about these work instructions. And the reason why I say that is that you may have created that work instruction with a previous manager that you had good relationships with. The new manager that comes in doesn't know that these work instructions are there or have been implemented. So now you have a document that, what I said, what we did, and it's documented. Now you can share that and saying, here's where we were, here's where we are now. I'd love you to take a look at this and get your input on it. And now you can make another addendum to it, because you may not have thought of it. The manager previous didn't think of it. He did. So now you're starting to build another relationship with that, because, sometimes when logistics managers change jobs, and they do it often, you want that impression to be carried on, right?
Yes, you want that handoff.
Right. And guess what? One less cold call you have to make, because if you did a great impression with that logistics manager, guess what? He's going to pull you into that new company. So, you're killing 2 birds with 1 stone. I hate that.
No, but
and that's how I've done most of my work. That's why I don't do cold calls, because of that impression, and bosses pull me into other things. So I'm telling you, it does work. Be smart about it. You'll gain extra time. You'll be more efficient. You'll be more productive, and you can really concentrate and focus on the customers you already have in house, and still gain others without really working really that hard.
Yeah, and it simply starts with an SOP, getting that first
Yes.
shipment, setting it up, and then tomorrow we'll be talking. Sorry, tomorrow's data day with Dean, but Thursday we'll talk a little bit more of actually that first shipment exactly. But now we're just kind of doing the paperwork and getting all those things signed up for it to make everything successful. But I love what you said, because that's the number one thing that I do. If a logistics manager goes, make sure that handoff is great with the current customer, but figure out what they're gonna do. Figure out where they're gonna go, because this industry, it's so small. A lot of people, like I've had a logistics manager I've been working with since about 5 years, and he's probably jumped jobs maybe 5 times. And it's not like he's hopping from job to job. It's just he goes there, he finds something to fix, we fix it, and then he goes to somewhere else. He's kind of like those kind of fixers, like those startup kind of guys, right? And
Yeah.
that's what I think is important. You kind of want to maintain the relationship, and there's nothing better than saying, "Hey, X, call Ryan, call Jeff, he's your guy, without you even having to do anything." And I think Jeb mentioned that when we had that prospecting, is like, when he was talking
I
about, I
said
think, the
that when I
conveyor
saw
belts.
that. Yeah.
See,
Yeah.
exactly, and kind of go from there. And for me, it all starts with an ironclad SOP. And I think, especially if you're new, it builds trust with your ops and your customer service team to figure
And
out that what you're doing, and the customer as well. But I think internally, if I was brand new and I came with an SOP to my customer service and my ops team, I know I get another feather. Damn it, I hate saying feather in the cap, but I know they take me out for a beer. Let's say that, right? I know that I would get that integrity, and I would get that, okay, this guy knows what he's doing. Even if I didn't know, if it was my first SOP I was ever doing in my career, it's like you're taking those steps to make sure that you're successful. And I want to touch on the point that you said, like, everyone's talking about collaboration, because I've been seeing it a lot too. They're like, hey,
Love it.
I might not do rail. I'll reach out to somebody with rail, but it's like, where's the congruency working together? And I feel like SOPs are so important for even that, for collaborations outside of your network itself. But I'd love you to kind of touch on that a little bit. Like, let's say, like you said, you've got a niche, and I know you guys are gonna be talking niches a little bit on Thursday, but what do you guys kind of say? Like, hey, I don't do this, call this guy.
Yeah. I mean, listen, stay in your lane, right? Don't be a jack of all trades. I know there's a lot of guys out there, and women, I'm not leaving me out, that really dabble all over the place. The way I look at it is, if you can become an SME, a subject matter expert in one lane, maybe a geography or a state, outbound, inbound, reverse logistics, whatever it might be, stay in your lane, because you're going to explode that much better than someone else that's scattered, as I would say.
Yep.
Can you be multifaceted? Of course you can. It really depends the background that you had and how diverse that it is. If you're into, let's say, cold storage, brokerage, or cold chain, you already know what you're in. You know that niche. You know what you're moving. You know what you're supposed to do. That's your lane, right? But if you're working for a brokerage and you're dabbling in, LTL and flatbed and truckload and reefer and heavyweights and specialized, if you dabbled in that and you know it well, sure, then go ahead and do that. But it's always good to be a subject matter expert and do what you do best, right? So I mean, again, it's very subjective in that whole thing. So
Yeah, as Damon kind of brings up here, like, like the dry van, refrigerator, drayage, team services work so far. And it's like, you
right,
find
exactly.
what works for you. And, like him being a carrier as well, right? They're going to find out their need. Maybe we should bring Damon on to talk about
I'd
niches from
love
like
to
a
have them.
carrier. Yeah, I think
Great.
we should have him on to talk about like niches from a carrier side. And, that would be amazing to kind of hire, because we're talking about a
Partnerships,
salesperson.
yes.
Yeah,
And excuse me. What I should have said is, be willing to say no.
Yeah.
Really, it's okay. Oh, hi, hey Ryan. You know what? I have a specialized movement. I'd love you to handle. You meanwhile, you're looking. Oh man, this is big bucks and all.
Yeah, you talk tankers with me, I'll
How
say
am I
no.
gonna do
Okay.
this? You're thinking, how am I going to do this, man? I don't want to lose this one, but sorry.
No, the way that I kind of
I don't,
here's the
I
way
don't
that I kind of live my. Yeah, here's
Yeah,
the way I kind of live
I
my
don't
life
do
with
that. So
Jeff.
I'm going to give you to a person who I know
Yeah.
that can definitely knock it out. You know what? And then in the small industry that it is, that person, if you have a good relationship, they're going to repay you. They're going to say, hey, listen, you
Yeah,
should.
like Jeff, I make it pretty simple in the way that I kind of operate. I say, hey, I might not be the best baker, but I'll find you the best baker in Toronto. I might not be the best mechanic, but I'll find you the best mechanic. So it's just having those partnerships and those things, and not wanting anything in return, because like we always kind of believe, like you put good things
But
into
they
the
do. You
universe,
don't
and
ask for it, but they do.
they do,
reciprocate.
they do. Yeah, you do good, and it comes back to you. So actually, Damon's actually going to be on. Dean actually was mentioning that to us. He's going to be on Dat IQ at 10 o'clock. I'll definitely be checking in on that. So, Jeff, when it comes to credit apps, to SOPs, final thoughts, brother, before we end off today.
Um, do your credit background checks first before you move your load. That's what I would do. It just streamlines the whole activity. So when that customer calls you, you can put it right in there and get it taken care of just like that. There's no delay on that. SOPs, if you don't have them, create them, figure them out. You're going to get that information from talking to your customers or in the exploratory call. Write them down and then come back with them saying, here's the solution. I'm going to put a work instruction together. Are you good with that or whatever? Because I'd like to start off on a good foot. So yeah, those two are the two best things that you can do for sure.
Boom. So, want to thank everybody for coming out this morning. I'm feeling the lighting today. I'm really enjoying the kind of thing. But I want to thank everybody. Like I said, it's been amazing. This week has been this whole theme of this week of getting your first customer. This is episode 2 of that. If you like this, please share this with somebody. If you found value with us, let us know. Reach out to us. We get DMs all the time, and we're never too important not to reply back to people. So, with that being said, catch a replay at 12 and 3 p.m. Eastern Time. LinkedIn, Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter. Tomorrow is Data Day with principal analysis of DAT, Dane Croak. We're excited to always have him on here. It's always a fun time. And actually, a little plug here. Yeah, check him out on YouTube, DAT IQ Show with Daman, one of our corporate sponsors here from American Logistics and Centurion Trucking. So with that being said, everybody, please be safe. I know we're about to get hit with snow in this whole week. So I know I hate it. We're getting 10 to 15. I know Jeff is yeah, I'd love to hear if Dan, hopefully he's back up to health, that if he's going snowmobiling, but it's not my thing. I like to stay inside and have it like that. So anyways, everybody, we'll see you guys tomorrow. Be safe, and yeah,
have a great day, guys.